Hello, and welcome back to Beyond the Transaction, Sky's the Limit, where we take a deep dive into the world of marketing, branding, and customer experiences. This podcast series delves into transcending mere commercial exchanges and uncovering the stories of individuals who are shaping the way we experience beauty and functionality. I'm your host, Katie Baldwin, and today we continue to explore the stories behind some of the most inspiring entrepreneurs shaping industries within New Zealand today. We have the privilege of sitting down with Amber Basalaj, the founder and creative director of Basalaj Beauty. Amber's journey from makeup enthusiast to a beauty entrepreneur is nothing short of remarkable, filled with determination, passion, and relentless pursuit of excellence. It's not just about building a successful business, it's about creating a brand that stands for something meaningful, that empowers individuals to embrace their unique beauty and self-expression. In essence, Amber's journey goes beyond the mere exchange of products and services. It's about fostering a community, igniting confidence, and inspiring others to pursue their dreams fearlessly. Welcome, Amber.
Hi.
Truly so excited that you are here. It feels long overdue.
Thank you for having me.
First off, congrats on making it into Sephora stores. Let's just jump right into it. Tell us all about it.
Wow, yeah. I mean, Sephora is the big fish, isn't it? It's something that you set out with this massive goal and hope that you're going to achieve something on that level, but it's sort of wild dream stuff that you're never really sure if that's going to happen, let alone, I guess, this early in the piece of a business. So to be able to actually be involved with Sephora and for them to embrace us and in a lot of ways it's extra validation of your product, that it's quality, luxury and everything that they want in their store kind of makes you feel pretty good about about doing what you're doing, It just takes it to another level of being like, wow, yeah, I really did create something that's amazing. And a brand like Sephora, which is global, see that and picked it up. So pretty happy.
Yeah. I mean, it is a huge milestone. As you said, it gives you that validation, like for a huge player in the beauty industry to validate that and to stock your products is incredible. So for all of you who don't know, go to Sephora, check it out.
Yeah, April 17th we'll be in stores and online, and it's the first step of many, once we nail down New Zealand and have got all those stores sorted, then we'll be into Australia and then throughout Asia. Big dreams of hitting the US and the Europe in the next few years. So it's kind of, it takes a concept and a business where, a lot of us, we just do day-to-day work hoping you're moving in the direction. Like, we know what we're doing to a degree. You have a whole bunch of strategies and goals and visions, but being able to put with any type of distribution chain, but certainly someone like Sephora with the global reach gives you a whole new direct line and strategy of how you're going to get global, and rather than just trying to make your own way and connect with all different people and hope you can jump from one to the other. So it's given us a new path of, okay, this is where we're going and how we're going to do it now. And it's happening now, not in 5 years' time. But it hasn't been easy. I've been working on Basalaj Beauty this is my 8th year. We launched publicly 2 years ago. And that's because I put so much effort into R&D, the concept of the brand. It definitely, there's all this amazing stuff about wanting to build an inspiring brand, but one that makes you feel good about life, one that makes you feel confident genuinely, because that's something that I know lots of us battle with every day. It doesn't matter how old, how young, what you've achieved, what you haven't in life. It's just constantly a struggle for some of us. So that was all great, but the most important thing is that the product had to be amazing too. If your product and your formulations are incredible, then all the great stuff that I wanted to give the brand meaning about matters and can speak because the product's actually good. So nobody's questioning that. It's about how you can now get your message across through the brand. So I spent a long time developing it. I definitely stepped outside the box. Most brands are been through that whole neutral era and a certain specific type of beauty that is deemed to be beauty, which I don't see. I see beauty as just individual to who you are, because that's just how we're created and how we look. So everybody's beautiful and unique in their own way. So I wanted to bring that out more, step outside the box, have colour infuse our lives again, particularly after the whole COVID thing. It became more relevant to open up and get happy again and use colour. And I think neutral's beautiful and nice, but having colour makes the world a whole lot better. So it took a long time to develop colours that were clean beauty, meet Sephora clean standards, but are of a level that beat or are as good as the best brands in the world. So that's why it took so long to develop and then launch. And then once I connected with Sephora, that was mid last year in June, it's been a whole nother journey of having that, you know, kept as a secret, because you don't want to have the added pressure of people if you don't make it or you don't get accepted by them. So that in itself has been like a whole nother journey. And so now finally release that news, but it's like 9 months later, it's almost like, you know, a pregnancy of just like this whole developing your baby, you know, with a partner that is incredible. So really exciting to finally be here and be able to take that next step, especially from little old New Zealand to, you know, big feat for anybody here to be able to get global distribution in any industry. So I take pride in the fact that I can now not only showcase what New Zealanders can do in terms of building product, but all the artists that have been on this journey, all the photographers, you know, everybody, models, you know, they're all going to have that opportunity for a global platform with me now, which is amazing.
You mentioned how it was almost like two separate journeys from product and research and development to now working with a partner. And if we could take it back to developing the product and developing the brand, how was that? Did it come natural to you?
The actual drive to want to do it was natural. I've been in, like, fashion and beauty just runs deep to who I am. I mean, I was out selling Avon at like 8 years old, touring around with my mum and going door to door, and she was into every, you know, all the different types of businesses back then. You know, it was the like 90s, so it's like Amway, Park Lane, Tupperware, you know, Avon. And so I just loved that whole concept, and she'd always have makeup parties at home. So I got to sneak in and play with them, and if I was lucky, I'd get to do makeovers on some of the ladies that came around. So for a long time, it's been a part of who I am. So when I kind of got to a point, my children had a certain age, I was in an area of my life doing engineering where it was kind of, that's not my full passion, but I love sales. I love the development. I love creating something from nothing, and engineering's like that. You're building things. So when I got the opportunity to go, well, what is it that I want to do now? It was just straight away no-brainer. I want to get into cosmetics. And, you know, the undertow of that is being in a man's world for a very long time, coming from not the greatest upbringing. It was like confidence took a long time for me to build. And so having this opportunity, I know that makeup and fashion gave me a feeling of confidence. It allowed me to feel like when I walked into my workplace, I was empowered versus, you know, you can get up, even now sometimes I wake up and keep my pajamas on all day working from home. It doesn't feel the same. You don't enter the day the same, in my mind, as when you do your hair, put your makeup on, put on a beautiful dress, even if you've got nowhere to go. It makes you feel better. So that whole idea, when I was looking at what I want to be passionate about, just came together in a natural way that I wanted to basically share with the world. So building it from scratch was a no-brainer. I didn't want anything off the shelf. It had to be custom formulations because I want it to be something that is the best in the world, not just slap your label on it and get out there, which is totally fine for some people. But for me, I'm a creator. So the challenge in building it was not the feeling of whether I could do it or not. it's actually finding the right partners for all the different facets of it. And you have, basically a crash course of trying to make that happen. People don't understand how long things take to develop, you know, and it's not just the formulations, those are at least a year long to 2 years. Some of my formulas, I took more than that, like 4 or 5 years, because I wanted to perfect certain aspects of them. Others are quicker, but it's at least a year for a custom formulation. Then you've got to go find your packaging partners. And because I created a business where I wanted all the luxury gifting concept, where you don't just get your cosmetics, you get a box, you unwrap it, you have the tissue paper, you have all this fun stuff that makes you feel good about gifting yourself, basically. You've got to go find that. You've got to go find the boxes that your product goes in, that sits in the shelf. So all of those, on some occasions, 2, 3 manufacturers before I found the right one. And, in a couple of cases, I was with a factory for a year and then just figured out this isn't working. And so you've got to make that tough decision of, do I hang around and keep trying to make this work, or do I cut and run and just start again and put myself back, a year? So that's the part that can be tough, especially when you're in New Zealand. There isn't anybody here that can create the stuff that I want. They're all offshore. So my first step was definitely to look in my own backyard and see what we can do in terms of manufacturing boxes, the formulations, components, the whole lot, because I didn't have a clue. And so you find out pretty quickly, okay, none of this stuff is getting made here. We have to go offshore. So then all of a sudden you're on a phone or on email talking to people you've never met, cold calling them, trying to make things happen, So that part is the one that is a little bit more challenging than coming up with the idea or feeling like you can do it.
I think it's a real talent to be able to take that assessment of this packaging company isn't serving the idea that's in my head, and you won't compromise on the quality. So you will have to jump and change. And it's that business that kind of catches up to you and all those decisions.
And it's hard if you're doing anything entrepreneurial. It's easy to get emotionally connected to certain things, particularly if you've invested financially. Yeah. So sometimes you have to make that tough decision of, okay, this has cost me XYZ. I'm so fully invested because I've spent, a year of my time here, or even just months of my time here. But you have to make that decision to move, and move quick, because otherwise you'll get stuck there and never be able to move forward. So sometimes you have to cut your losses as well and go, okay, that was a learning experience, but I need to change. Otherwise it's going to hold me back from moving forward. So that is tough no matter what you're doing. You talked about it being a competitive market. I have heard that a bit, but I never thought of that at all when I set out to do what I was doing, because quite frankly, I don't care what anybody else is doing. Like, I am super supportive in the sense of I want everybody out there doing whatever it is that inspires them. And if they're making cosmetics or if they're doing something else, then that's great. But it doesn't stop me from doing what I want to do. And that's what I mean by I don't care. You can do what you're doing, but I'm going to do what I'm doing. And the reason for that is that I'm unique and my proposition is unique. So even if there's 50,000 lipsticks on the shelf, they're not me. Yep. So mine is mine, and here's what I'm offering you. And it's different to the next person, just like theirs is different to mine for different reasons. And every industry is the same. I mean, how many bags of potato chips are at your supermarket, you know, and worldwide? So I think it's easy to kind of get bogged down in certain narratives that are created by society or by industries about what is perceived as tough markets. But ultimately, the world economy relies on entrepreneurs being brave enough to go out there and just make it happen and be unique to themselves. No different to singers, if everyone just goes, oh, there's Beyonce out there, or there's Pink, or there's whoever, I'm not going to start singing because they're too good or they're already doing it, then, the world doesn't work like that, So you've just got to go out there and do it. And that's having the confidence to believe in yourself, isn't it? And just whatever's going on outside is irrelevant, because you are you and there's nobody else like you, and the world needs to see what you have to offer.
Totally. I was just going to say it's the confidence to take that passion and be like, you know what? I believe in my product. I believe in our brand. It's time to push forward and do whatever.
And I think a key thing there is too, you know, for a long time after launch, you can have a lot of nothing before something. And so the whole concept of never give up becomes really important. When you've got a product, it's easy to believe in it when perhaps it's not so good too. So you have to be really careful that you're pushing something that actually has the bones and structure for other people to love it, you know. So, and there's a few ways of doing that early on in the piece. And for me, it was makeup artists became integral to me understanding, okay, I've built this. I think it's great, but what does everybody else think of it? Well, yes, the consumer matters, but in my industry, artists matter, because if they're loving it, you know the consumer's going to love it, just like I do. So many artists have supported me along the journey, got all that feedback. It was amazing. And it just helped me to understand that even though I may not be moving forward in a manner that I expect or want to happen right now, I still believe in the product because I've got all this amazing feedback from different key professionals in this industry. So I just need to be patient, keep building the brand, because that's the key part of it. If you create a product, there's a whole lot of perhaps waiting for that end result sale, but you've got to build the brand. Conversely, if you're in something like engineering, you've got a service, so you can go out there and fix that on that boat immediately, paid that day, and it happens and everybody's happy. But you've got a service sector where you're not having to build a brand per se the way you do with a product, so you can get more immediate results from a service sector industry. But with a product, it's a long-term investment. So never giving up is really crucial, because if I had on some of those days where I didn't feel like maybe it was going to work, if I'd just walked away from it, I would have given up this whole journey that I'm on now. I'm in Sephora, you know, so, and some days it does feel like that, you know, across 8 years, but certainly in the last 2, when it's out there and you're like, oh, this didn't happen, but I expected it to happen, I should just give up. Yeah, it would have been easy some days to do that. But instead I kept forging ahead on the basis of, no, I've got all this reinforcement of people in the industry behind me in different areas, and people want me to come to their events and they want to do this and they want to do that. Somewhere it's going to click, and it did. So that's always the advice I give to entrepreneurs, is to get outside assessment, like from a general in your industry, whatever it may be, not just your PR team, or literally go out there to people that just are completely unbiased and want to use your product, and they use your product all the time, and get that feedback and build on it from there. And then your brain needs to go to brand building more than sales, which are 2 totally different things. So if you can build a really strong brand, sales and all of the other good stuff that we're all looking for as entrepreneurs comes later, but it comes big because you've built a really great brand. And that's what I learned a crash course in.
You also hit on, you have to keep your eye on the bigger picture.
Yes.
And as you said, very practical advice. Get that immediate feedback from those who are trusted, who are professionals in the industry, who've tested hundreds probably of different brands.
You know, I think back when I first launched, and the proposition of Basalaj Beauty from an aesthetics perspective is very, very different to a lot of products on the market. We're not neutral. We're not black and white packaging. We're not uber feminine. We're bright red. We're strong. We're bold. And all of that is about being inspiring and just breaking out of the mold. And I think, you know, every facet of Basalaj Beauty unconsciously I've created that way, but now is a big talking point as to why it's probably moving ahead faster than expected. But when I first got out this product to certain people, the feedback wasn't great from some people. Not everyone, but you did, and humans tend to focus on the one person that has the negative comment on your post, or the one person that says, actually, I don't like this, and you get all bent out of shape worrying about that person, but you've got 50 people over here that said they love it. But we have this weird ability to kind of just ignore that and focus on that negative comment. So for me, I definitely got pushback on that from certain people, and some of them I thought were really important, like media or a beauty writer, oh, this is different. It doesn't fit with what my expectation is. If you've got a majority of positive feedback from the right areas, don't let those, negative comments stop you either.
Speak louder than they need to be.
Correct. Yeah. If it's 1 in every 20 or 30 that is telling you, I just don't personally like it, that's different to constructive criticism about your product on a bigger market scale, because not everybody, I'm not going to service everybody with my product. There are going to be people that prefer other brands to mine. And so, it's just having that balance of understanding what feedback to take on board and what not, and you will know. It's a bit of self-reflection as well. How do I put myself out in the world? I don't go to a street that's got all the car yards on it and go, I love every single one of these brands, or I don't go into a store and love every one of the brands on the shelf at a supermarket or whatever. So why do I expect somebody to love everything that I'm doing? There are going to be the people the same. So that helps you to put into perspective the emotional side of it, because it's like, well, actually, I don't love every brand of makeup. So why do I expect everyone in the world to love what I'm doing? And that helps to probably just disconnect yourself from it and go, well, it's okay that that person doesn't like it. But there's people over here that do. And that's what matters. As long as you've got some people that will love your product, then you're good.
You're good to go. Yeah, exactly.
And you don't need to take it personally.
As you pointed out, competition is great. It allows for different products and different brands to emerge and move the industry as a whole forward. Your brand is so refreshing because you see a lot of content creators, all of a sudden they're coming out with a beauty line. And they get that instant validation just because they are an artist. To hear your story as an entrepreneur, especially from New Zealand, and making these big strides, it shows all the work that actually goes into a powerful brand.
And I think that is probably one of my biggest sources of pride, and probably one of the areas where was I least confident. It is hard when you start any type of business, because if you're looking at influencers, there's influencers for all sorts of things like fitness and skincare and hair and fashion and all sorts of things. And it is challenging when mentally, because it's not a them issue. Good on them for putting themselves out there, creating their own brand, being themselves, and being in a position to be able to do something like create a product. But for me, I was like, how do you beat that in today's world? How do you create something? It's not actually about your brand competing with other brands. You're competing with a concept that society is now conditioned to, and that is that people who put themselves out there on social media in a big way are the ones we follow, and whatever they're doing is what we buy. So that was probably for me like, oh, I'm going to have to now become this social media influencer to get this off the ground.
Right.
And and you do all these wild things that you would never normally think, because you're just off on a tangent trying to be something you're not, because you think that's what you have to do in order to move forward. And so for me, that lasted about 5 minutes, and I'm not very good at social media. I'm not very good at, in terms of I love social media, that it can reach people and you can get your product out there and connect with so many people all around the world in a way that we've never been able to do before. I'm not super old, but I'm not Gen Z either. So for me, I've been in a world where that didn't exist, as well as now when it's completely flooded. And for me, I just, in the end, was like, well, I kind of just have to stay true to myself. And what am I good at? I'm good at grassroots business. I'm really good at connecting with people face to face. I love that. I love understanding people's journeys. I love getting a vibe off people and just being like, wow, we're two humans just out here in this world. For me, because I didn't want to sell myself, I wanted to sell a brand and a product first and foremost. I felt that it was important to go out there and just meet people and build it that way. And I think I sort of learned that the hard way, because in the beginning it was like, okay, I'll put this on social media and everything's just going to blow up and we're going to go and it's going to work. And that's because it wasn't authentic. That's not who I am. And that's okay. But it didn't stop me from just doing it the old school way and going out there and working hard and connecting genuinely with people and just moving forward in probably a longer time frame, but still getting there in the end because you never gave up. So keep true to who you are and push that, because that's what will build the brand and that's what will really get you to where you need to go in the end.
I know we've talked a bit about this journey, but I was wondering if you could share a memorable moment or milestone, but not, we're excluding the Sephora. That one we already deemed at the top was a huge milestone.
Before I had launched and I was creating this whole concept, creating the formulations, I didn't share that with anyone except my immediate family because, again, I just wanted to move through it in a quiet way and make it happen when it was ready to happen without the, oh, when are you starting this, or when are you going to launch? You know, and the second part to that was, I think we live in such an instant information society. You can get an answer to anything or you can get whatever you want immediately. I think we've kind of lost the magic of life a little bit. You know, when I was growing up, it was always, you didn't know anything about anything. You had to read it in a book or you had to write a letter to somebody, but there were always things to look forward to. Whereas today, you don't actually have to wait till tomorrow or next week or next year to learn or understand something. So I wanted to keep it secret so that people knew, oh, okay, there's this to look forward to. And it just created a little bit more excitement for everybody, more so than me wanting. But during that time, my very good friend Joanne, she got breast cancer for the second time. And she was battling that just before COVID hit in 2020. And the last time I saw her was in March, and she didn't know what I was doing. I left her, and a week later she was in hospital care. I didn't really understand at that time how bad it was because she kept telling me it's going to be fine, and she's beat it once, so you think you're going to beat it again, you know? So when I went and saw her in hospital, I actually told her what I was doing and that I'd built this highlighter called Joanne, and it's a beautiful sparkly gold happy highlighter. Everything she is, yellow's her favorite color. She's so vibrant and bright, and she didn't live a life of excess or materialistic. But to me, I loved how she just loved everything about, like, we'd always go to all the fancy shops together, and just she loved dressing up and being this amazing person that perhaps wasn't her day-to-day go-to, and just being Joanne instead of a mother or a wife or a business owner or a worker or whatever. And so because of that, it inspired me to build the highlighter. And then when she got sick and I saw her and she was dying, I said to her, it's named after you, and now I want to progress this whole concept into fundraising for breast cancer. And for me, that was a really monumental moment to, one, be able to share it when I hadn't shared it with anybody else. So it does feel weird after years and years and years of not being able to do that, but sharing it under circumstances that I guess for some people might not look great, but for us it was just this amazing moment. And I knew then that she would never ever not be remembered. Another additional thing to make sure I never gave up and that this business went global, so that her memory and the whole concept of how breast cancer affects so many people. That was step one. Then after that, once I launched, because that didn't happen till many months later after she had passed, I connected with Sonia Damari, who is the CEO of Breast Cancer Cure. And it was at a time where I'd only been launched for maybe 2 months, 3 months. And I thought, you know, the whole Joanne concept was not going to take off until I'd cracked the code and became a big business. The biggest milestone was becoming a partner for Breast Cancer Cure. And so our role is that we go right across the country, across New Zealand, and do all the makeup artistry. So I bring a whole team with me. We do all the artistry for their fashion shows, which are fundraising events. And for me, that is definitely the biggest milestone in terms of my emotional side of things with the business. So you've got Sephora, that is just monumental from a commercial perspective, and, you know, I guess emotional because you go into Sephora your whole life, you know, buying from it, and then to be like, wow, my stuff's on that shelf is amazing. But from a real heartfelt personal perspective, the big milestone is BCC.
I mean, it's beautiful. It's both professional and personal.
Yeah.
It's a huge milestone. And also, as you said, it gives you that platform.
You don't have a voice. You don't have a platform yet. So for me, when somebody passes, it's especially when you're so young and you're not used to that, you kind of live this life where you're like, oh, that comes a lot later. I don't have to deal with that. I don't have to go to funerals. It can kind of be quite jarring. It was for me. Pulling it through with the business probably gave me a channel for that energy and that whole emotional side of that loss. So, but it's also important to me that a business just isn't a business, that it has heart in it too, and that there's purpose to it. It's not just a soulless company. So it just really gave me a whole side that just created even more passion. Last year, we also did, for October, we did a whole campaign and had some amazing people involved. Petra Bagus, Nerida Janti, Antonia Preble and Sonia. They all just did a whole month-long campaign with me where we sold Joanne highlighters and we donated to Breast Cancer Cure. So it's just been such a big thing to be involved with them and to be able to take those sorts of steps that are outside just your normal, I guess, business concept. And it's created its own platform because of that. It's given you, like you say, your voice.
It's such a long partnership coming up on 4 years now. That's great. And as you said, it's so genuine and authentic to your brand that it just makes sense.
Plus, it's got fashion. So who doesn't love that?
Win, win, win.
Yeah.
Like partnerships with Breast Cancer Cure, how do you connect with your current target audience?
So that's like that whole thing about you throw the whole toolbox at something and eventually you find the right things. And it's about that. It so drives into that never give up, because I've literally tried so many things. And sometimes, you go, wow, is this ever going to actually work, or am I just crazy? And then you have to dig deep and go back to that whole, why did I start this and what's the purpose of this? And just remind yourself of all the people you've met and all the great things you've done, and just keep that patience and keep going and pick yourself up and try something else. So for me, it was that, try that social media way. Here's what I've got. Put it out there. Of course, you're going to love it, And so, but that's so much more harder than the perception of social media. You can't just flick something on there and it's going to go viral. People spend years building their brands online, and then suddenly things click. It's the concept of, you think it happens overnight, but actually there's a whole iceberg of work that's gone on behind the scenes, even if it is just an individual. That was the first step and learning lesson of, this isn't going to work. And then from there, when I realized this is about people, meeting people in the real world, not just online, I just went back to that grassroots concept. I've got to just start putting myself out there physically in my own backyard and work my way up. So one of them was just doing small events, like anything I could get my hands on. Bearing in mind, I started working not only in an industry I hadn't been in at all before, but in a town I wasn't in. I'm from the South Island, so I knew that it wasn't going to make or break down there. It had to be up here because this is where the hub is. It was a very challenging time. I met some key people, mainly the artists, who started introducing me to people, and then I'd get on their event, and then I'd get on someone else's event, and then I tried PR companies, and again, you have to go through a few till you find the one that really works for you. So each one did different things that were helpful, but it wasn't quite the right partnership. So you try and do that. You can put yourself in magazines, you can put yourself on radio, billboards. None of that works. I'll tell you, none of that works. Or
save your money, people.
Save your money. Because when you're a no-name brand, people will see you on a billboard and they see no connection. You have to build that whole concept behind the scenes. So for the first year, it was literally just spinning my wheels, doing all these things that you think are going to make it work. And in some ways, now I am where I am. Some people do say to me, oh, I saw such and such, or I saw you at that event. And so it kind of matters, but certainly billboards and that, I probably spent a lot of money that I could have saved myself. And until now,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Where it really mattered was in the events, connecting with people direct. And the cool thing about that is that's what I'm most passionate about, is meeting people and connecting with them and getting them excited about life and about living and you know, having fun with makeup, because that helps you to have a fun life, you know. So that whole journey was fun from that perspective. So meeting people really started to happen when you started to understand, you know, who is the target here and where do they go. And so now I start targeting those events and going to those ones. BCC's been a huge one because there's so many different people that breast cancer affects, that it's all sorts of people that turn up to those shows. So that's been amazing. I did a few expos, and when I got to a certain key point last year, I met Yasmin Farry, who's the general manager for New Zealand Fashion Week. All of those attempts at trying to meet the right people and making the brand and putting it out there led me to her, where she was like, this is amazing. You've done all these things and we want you at Fashion Week. And then that was a whole different group of people again and a different consumer. So it's just kind of, I think, a process of just really putting yourself out there and connecting with people. My product happens to be one where I thought what I was building was for someone that lived a busy life as a mum, and I wanted something that was high performance, so it lasted all day, so I don't have to deal with it, you know, 50 times a day. We don't always have time to just keep putting on lipstick and eyeshadow and da-da-da. So I wanted something that really worked, where I knew it looked good, would stay, and I didn't have to worry about it during the day. And it's not cheap, but it's not expensive, but you get the expensive feel to it. So I was sort of thinking my target market was sort of 30, 35 plus. But in the end, what I've realised is that it's just so universal. Everybody loves it. Every event I've gone to, I've realised actually the market's quite wide here, and really all you need to do is just be present at as many events and things as you can, and let everybody enjoy it, and not stick myself into a box going, that's the specific person that is to buy my product. I'm just building a brand that is what it is, and I focus on that. And whoever wants to share in that and be a part of that movement, come on board.
Yeah.
You know, I don't care who you are or where you're from or what you're doing. This is a totally unapologetic brand where I want you to live your authentic self. So connecting with Sephora, I think, gave us that ability to be to a wide market as well, versus a specific market, because everybody goes to a Sephora, don't they? I mean, doesn't matter who you are, whether you're a mum taking your 15-year-old daughter, or whether you're a grandma in there and you're buying for yourself or your grandchildren, you still end up in there and still can enjoy the whole concept of makeup and beauty and skincare. So,
and I also wanted to touch on your resilience in coming into a new market, being Auckland, and just making those connections, because no matter what business or industry you're in, it's all about who you know.
Yeah.
And so to hit the ground running with, essentially, I'm assuming, knowing no one or just a few people, and making your name for yourself and connecting with those people, it is resilience. It takes years to build upon that.
It was. Like, I literally knew nobody, zero. Everybody that I knew, we all love makeup, we all love fashion, we all love those things, but nobody worked. I was an engineer, so a different circle, you know, and my spare time is spent with my kids, and, you know, my husband and son, they're in Speedway, so again, a totally different, it's just a whole different world. So the connection into the industry of beauty and fashion hadn't happened. So it was a complete blank page. Naturally, for whatever reason, I thrive in those situations. I love a challenge and I love meeting new people. I love being inspired by other people and you know, encouraging them to be their best selves and do what it is that they love to do. I always want to see people do well. And so coming up here was, yes, it's challenging. Yes, of course, there's this whole scary side when you go home at night. and you're like, man, am I crazy? Or can I do this? There's always that voice in your head trying to second guess everything. My logical self just says the bigger that noise is, the more you're on the right track, because to me, success is on the other side of fear. And to do that, you just have to keep pushing through. You can't let it stop you. And the other part is just this whole environment of where I grew up and the journey of life I've been on. I've always just had two choices, and that is you stay where you are and you stay where you are, or you go backwards, or you choose to try and move forward and you try to do something. And what's the worst that can happen? You end up back where you started. And to me, it's scarier staying where I am than moving forward into the unknown. I found nothing but support from everybody I've connected with. So many people have just really believed in this brand and what it represents and who I am. And that was like the biggest, I don't want to really say surprise, because that's sort of saying like, I think everybody isn't supportive, but right. I don't know what I expected. You believe in yourself and your own brand, but to have other people feeling the same way, to the point where, I've got artists that have done work for BCC. They're not paid. They're there for passion because it's a charity event, and they love and believe in the brand and they want to be in a part of it. And that's humbling, So I think just it comes back to that whole authenticity thing. If you are who you are, people resonate with that and they want to be a part of it and they want to support you because you're just real.
It is inspiring to hear you speak about it, because I think a common problem with a lot of entrepreneurs is they have this passion, they have a product or a service. Some people, it might just be, maybe this is more of a hobby or just a passion project, and be inspired by this conversation and take that risk.
Yeah, and I think that's layered by connection. Genuine, sit in the same room as somebody doesn't happen the same way it did when I was growing up. So for me, because I appreciate that concept and understand the value it has in not just the business world, but even in our lives, of how positive that can be to reach people in all sorts of ways. But for me, I guess I'm fighting and hanging on to the whole old school way of just loving meeting people in real life, and it's the vibe. I would miss it. I can't just sit through a phone and make things happen. That's my downfall. I prefer to be in person. And so to other people, I just would say that use social media and that whole thing for what its purpose is, but don't lose yourself in it and forget that you still need that genuine connection. And if it's scary, again, you're doing the right thing. If it makes you fearful, you just have to keep pushing through.
We're giving life advice and business advice because it's so real. I mean, you even think personally, if I'm retelling a story and you're saying, maybe even verbatim, maybe you can remember exactly what the other person says, but you also have to put a little side note in there, like, the vibe was off though, even though it didn't sound, you know what I mean? Like, even the words can't express exactly the vibe, or as you said, body language is huge.
Yeah, we're the new boomers for the next generation, right? Yeah. Where it's like, what do they know, and maybe what do I know? Maybe social media and the whole online thing is the way of the future, and because I'm just not in that generation, I don't understand it, and so maybe you and I are just crazy.
Yeah. We're fading into the background.
Yeah, but I do think when I look back from my journey, the only reason I have got to this point is being able to connect with people, because trying to do it online, you are just another number there, and it is extremely difficult to get your voice and platform through those unless you've already got another existing platform. It's still a situation where you've got to have a whole bunch of things working at the same time for it to connect. You can't just send your product to an influencer and think it's going to be an overnight success, because it's not. Social media is so important to it, has been on the whole journey. It's just it's not the only tool I've used, and to think that you can only use it, it's just not really going to get you to where you need to go. You need to be doing all these other things, and that is people in general, whether it's going to the events, sponsoring things, putting your name out there, you know, just going and getting your friends to talk to other friends, somewhere along the line, it's real people that are buying your product, whatever it is. So you have to connect with those real people. But it's just at what point do you use which tool in the toolbox? Taking a step back, in order, when you build a product like what ours is, the cosmetics, in order to grow that range, you need distribution, because you've got to have capital and, you know, the ability to create the next line and the next product and the next this. You can't do it all at once as much as I want to. I want to build everything right now, but I can't. So I created in the beginning the items that I felt represented the concept and the brand the best to begin with, but gave a broad enough range that we had something for everybody, knowing that I wouldn't be able to necessarily create a lot more until I hit that magic distribution line, whether it was starting my own store, because back then I had no idea, which we tried that. We did a store for 5 months, and you know, whether you can maintain keeping that or whether you get into distribution. But somewhere along the line, I think you need distribution in what we're doing. So until that happens, you can't build out. I think it's more expanding the range that would be the exciting next step. So much energy, like I said, went into creating products that just gave huge value for money. So most of our products, for instance, our highlighters are double the size in terms of the quantity you get, which is not common for people to look at cosmetics and go, oh, how many grams am I getting? So, you know, that's important to me, that you're getting good value for money, that the products are clean, that I didn't use cheap or poor ingredients. So one of the big factors when I was looking for a factory is they had to be of the highest quality. And I think that's something pretty much synonymous to New Zealanders. We always try to do everything high quality, and that's because we're, you know, a little country at the bottom of the earth, and we end up being, you know, we've had to be self-sustainable for a long time before the world connected through. We have quite a high standard here of what we're putting out. So you know, that was my first step, is finding a factory that had that same ethos. And the one that I've ended up with, you know, they make pharmaceutical grade skincare. And for me, it was literally building the best type of formulations I could in the world, using the best ingredients and trying to innovate as best you can in a world where innovation's not so easy to get anymore, because a lot of things are done. And with cosmetics, a lipstick looks the way a lipstick does. So how do you make a point of difference, you know? So it was about infusing them with really cool ingredients and doing different things. So as time's gone on now, I think my collection is really still incredible and relevant. I think my brain is more shifted to now, what can I create next that's good, and how do I put my spin on that next product? You know, my sights are set on foundations and things like that, but that's a whole big process, because I want to be, you know, it's so important to me, like I said before, about being inclusive. So we're not releasing a range of 5 colours. You know, it's got to have skincare properties and do amazing things no matter your age. Another big driver for me is the perfect skin concept. I haven't yet succumbed to injectables or Botox or things like that, and that's not anybody else that does it. That's your gig, whatever. For me, I just haven't gone down that path. So one of the challenges from a cosmetics perspective is foundations being put out there and told, you know, these are amazing for your skin and they work. Yeah, they do, until they fall into your lines, but you don't know that because you're using either young people or people that don't have lines, right? So for me, the challenge is going to be R&Ding something that actually works on skin like mine and others who are older, and we don't have splitting of the foundations. So that's where a whole bunch of the progressing forward is going to be a chunk of my time over the next few years, you know. So that's kind of where we're at. I just do what feels right to me. That's why when I say, you know, I have lines on my face right now, that's the challenge I face. So I'm just going to build it for problems that I see and hope that other people, it solves their issues and makes them feel better about life.
And I think that's one of many strengths you have because you're so connected on the ground level with people. You understand what actual people's actual problems are, which sounds so simple. But
yeah, the toughest challenge was like, oh, okay, I'm in Sephora now. I'm going to have to put my face out there because, you know, like it's like let's go time and people need to see me and they need to understand why this has come about and who I am and what the whole ethos of the brand is. And learning, feeling comfortable, talking into a camera and then putting it online and watching myself and listening. I'm my harshest critic, right?
Yeah.
And being like, God, that's just so bizarre, you know, and it feels almost so conceited to put it out there, which runs totally against who I am as a person. You know, I dress for me. I get up and put my makeup on for me. I don't put it on for anybody else. I don't wear things for any. If other people love that and want to comment on it, great. But I didn't do it because I need or want any of that. It's about my own self-confidence and how I feel about myself, how I feel about how I look. So putting it out there is sort of the opposite. It feels like you're putting it out there for other people. And that's a big challenge for me. When I did the announcement for Sephora, you would have seen the video. And I realized, I was like, I just don't even need to care what, like, just do it, you know, and just incorporate it as just another part of your business, who you are, and connecting with people now. So it's the opposite, you know, me teaching or telling my children, hey, get off the phone and come over here and meet people. They're teaching me, hey, you know, get over here into our world and get on the phone and get comfortable doing this, because you do need all of them now and they all make sense and they all help you to learn and grow as a person and connect with people in different ways. So that's been the big challenge. That's now overcome. Now I've got to, you know, start doing that on a regular basis, but I'm enjoying it now because it feels like my focus can be on it now. And whereas before it was like doing this or doing that to build the brand, now it's like, okay, I'm here. Now I can move forward in a way where it's completely focused on marketing and connecting with people in all ways, not just one. I think that you try things in business, so many different things. Some work and some don't. You also have an expectation of how you think things should pan out. And so, you know, it is that society that you're talking about before. Oh, this is how you're going to make it. Go do it this way. And doing it back then, it just didn't feel right. It felt wrong. And looking back on it now, boy, I was so like inexperienced, you know, and I've been in business a very long time. I've done some pretty incredible things before I have even set out on this journey. Once I kind of took control of my own life and stepped outside of the life I was brought up in that isn't so great, when I finally found my feet and went out on my own, you know, solo mum, 2 kids, holy, you know, and only 22 years old, like that's just crazy. I've lived a great life since then, and I've done some amazing things that I'm so thankful for. That getting into this, in some ways, it's that service versus product. So I'm experienced over here doing that. I thought, oh yeah, I can just replicate this, but put it all in this way. And you just learn, you know, no two businesses are ever the same. They always require different skill sets and a different approach to making them work and making them successful, even if they are in the same industry, because they got different people or they've got a different product, you know. So yeah, it didn't feel right back then. It felt like I was doing something when I wasn't really ready. Whereas now I feel like I have built something that means something. I've done all the formulations. I've created the brand concept. Now it needs me and I'm ready to give it that. So it's just that's the evolution that you talk about. It's not necessarily evolving the product. It's evolving yourself along the journey and going, that didn't work, this did. And the more you fail, well, not that that's my favorite word in the world. I don't really think anything's a failure. You either it works or it doesn't. But even if it doesn't work, you've learned something and you pick yourself up and go in a different direction. So that's all led me to this point of going, oh, okay, you know, I'm here and I'm ready. And a huge part of that is getting distribution and going, okay, I've done all this groundwork and it's validated and now we've got our platform. So I can head over here now and just enjoy the next step.
And now you're entering into this era of Sephora, which might change your day-to-day job. I can only imagine.
Yeah. It does. I mean, like, sometimes it's overwhelming because I like know how much work I've done to get to this point. I'm like, wow, you know, now you've got this whole other that you have to deal with, and I'm not a huge corporation, you know, we're baby steps into this whole thing. Huge part of the success of where I am right now is my husband and certainly my son, Jaden, who has done all the design work with me. He just hours and hours, years after year of just doing everything he can to help build it with me from a brand perspective, you know, his capability building, the websites, you know, building all the pictures on the Instagram, you know, it takes hours just for one, you know, so it's sort of, it's a very, very tight family affair. That's what we've relied on. We don't have tons of people. I'm still wrapping every order on my own at home precisely, you know, till all hours of the night. Like, so when you add an arm of Sephora, it's like, oh, okay, you've got to have this rapid growth, but how am I going to manage it while I'm doing all of this other stuff? And I think it's just stop overthinking it and stop worrying about it. You know, like you worry is wasted on things that haven't happened yet. You can put yourself in a spin and just overwhelm yourself. But at the end of the day, you just have to take it each day at a time, one step at a time. If you need help or you need growth, it will come organically and happen. And Sephora has just been an incredible company to work with, right from when I first connected in June, which I will say when we were talking about milestones, although Sephora is the milestone, one of the funnest parts of that, but nerve-wracking was walking into their offices in June on my own with my little, you know, suitcase full of my product and just a massive amount of hopes and dreams, no known outcome, flew overseas to do it, and you see their big signage and it's just this incredibly surreal feeling of like, how did I get here? But working with that whole team, they've just been nothing but supportive. They will help you in every way possible. There's so many great people in there that I just feel like it's another extension of our family, and that things will always find a way, you know, in business, and you'll grow when you need to grow and things will work out. Might change my day-to-day job, but it'll be in a more positive way where I can now start that whole amazing journey of actually employing people and creating that whole economic wealth again, and helping other New Zealanders. Because, you know, if entrepreneurs crack the code and create businesses, it's a positive for everybody.
Oh, it's huge.
You know, it's huge. And that's something New Zealanders really need to get behind, is helping those smaller guys. So when I talk about a competitive market, you know, some brands don't necessarily need as much help as others. You know, you want to pick the smaller guy and help them because they in turn help your community or help your local charities or do whatever. And it also puts New Zealand on the map when you're talking about global distribution. So, yeah, that's the exciting part. It's just a different facet now and a different journey. Yeah, I think it's just really important that when you have got options, make sure you choose local or do your best to, or even dislike the post or share word of mouth. It's free. It doesn't have to be a financial investment. It's just literally even stopping and saying to someone, that is so brave of you to be out here doing that. I applaud you. And then you carry on your day, you know, because entrepreneurialism at its core is a very lonely road, even if you have a partner, you know, and like me, my partner is just incredibly supportive to the point of ridiculous. I'm so lucky. I don't know how I got so lucky to have somebody that just really boosts your confidence every day, loves you for who you are and encourages you to just keep doing what you're doing, whatever that is. But even if you have that, at the end of the day, it still falls to you. It's still your vision, your dream, and you carry the weight of if it doesn't work out and the disappointment. And, you know, for me, I think about my children and my husband and how it impacts them, and if I give up, you know, or if I don't make it. So it is a lonely road. So having people just literally randomly stopping at an event and just being interested, not necessarily to buy, but just to applaud the concept and get involved with you makes a huge difference. So do it. It goes just a huge way for people. You don't know what everyone's going through on a daily basis. So even a smile makes a difference.
I mean, you've given so much advice throughout this entire hour or so we've been here. Is there anything else?
I would just probably like to say that a huge thank you to everybody that has helped on this journey, and there has been so many. All the designers at Fashion Week that entrusted us to do their work that helped in so many ways to get our brand out there. Yasmin Farry, who runs New Zealand Fashion Week, obviously my big heart, love Sonia from BCC, countless amounts of artists that have given their time, photographers, other businesses. I did my Sephora announcement and so many businesses just donating to goodie bags, like Tamara, she does amazing shower bombs and, they donate them. Beta Brand, who's trying to get out there with their chocolate shakes. So many different people that I want to thank, because it truly takes a team, even though it's yours. You're the person trying to make it happen either way. You can't do it without all the people around you. So it's super important to me that I always recognize and stay humble and thankful for all the people I've met, even yourself giving me a platform to be on your podcast. It all matters, because media is another hard one to crack. Getting a magazine to write an article about you is next to impossible, because they're going to make money and they want to do paid advertising and stuff, but you can't afford to do it. So it's this whole catch-22. So when somebody does give me the time, that's been huge and influential on the brand awareness as well. And there's been so many. Vanessa Bennett from Panic PR, who is just a ball of energy and has got me on so many events. It's been amazing. So that's important. And to all the entrepreneurs out there, my main piece of advice is literally never give up. And, if that's what you're passionate about, if that's what you want to do it. It's going to be scary. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to be in situations where you don't even know if you can afford to get week to week, but you will get there because you will make it happen and you will meet great people and they will help you to get there too. So just put yourself out there and make it happen.
Thank you, Amber, again, for sharing your experiences in the conversation. Tell the people what you or Basalaj Beauty is up to. What can the listeners look forward to? What is next?
So obviously, April 17th, launching into Sephora, all the Sephora stores in Auckland. So come on down on that day at any one of them, Newmarket, Queen Street, or Sylvia Park, and just show your support, or to check out our product and just touch and feel and see what it's all about would be amazing. So that's the next thing. There's so many other things this year that we're looking forward to doing. One of them is we're doing London and Paris Fashion Week as artists with our team. So we're taking over a bunch of New Zealand artists and we're going to get involved and give that our best shot. So and carrying on our work with BCC. So again, check out those. They're called Fashion for a Cure. You can get tickets online. 100% of the proceeds go to finding a cure for breast cancer. So we fund all the research for trying to prevent it from actually ever happening. So we'll be there throughout the whole year doing those across the country too. So get involved with that as well.
Amber has emphasized the importance of authenticity, resilience, and creativity. And we hope this episode underscores the diverse pathways to success in business. I'm Katie Baldwin. This was an episode of Beyond the Transaction. Thanks again, everyone, for listening. See ya. Bye.